Hello and welcome along to another episode and the start of a brand new season from this FM21 story, The Head Coach with me, Daniel. It's past 66 today and we are back for our first game of the Premier League season with Southampton. We're still here and we go away to Wolverhampton Wanderers, a side that also fought for Europe last season. We finished the 26-27 season just one place and 7 points apart, and we go head to head on the opening day today, but it's not as simple as that. Because as the title suggests, it is transfers galore here. 8 first-team signings, 6 first-team sales, and some big surprises. The director of football has certainly gone spending his money this time, but there's a few outs I'm a little bit worried about. So if you want to see all of that and you're looking forward to the new season with Southampton, a European campaign to come as well with the Europa League group stage drawing pending, please do put a thumbs up on the video. Subscribe down below for daily FM21 content from 2 long-term stories. Of course, it's perfect symmetry at the moment, as yesterday we had our big new season transfer special with Bangor City in the Builder Nation. And of course, you can catch up with all the playlists in the eye above, as well as the live stream series and the podcast channel too. But there is no doubt in today, despite the first game of the season we've got, which is actually a fairly big and fairly good one, we've got to be focusing on transfers. So let's go and have a look at what's been happening over the summer. Because actually, if we talk about the first team sales, it's 6. But if we talk about the released ones as well, we suddenly get to the same sort of number. So let's go and have a look at the outs. Here we go. So 2 more outs from the first team when it comes to released players. Jan Sommer, who was the backup keeper last year, he's retired at the same time. And David Kovnacki, who was our first choice striker towards the end of the season. So that leaves its own concern. And arguably, it's the only position we haven't yet replaced. So we'll wait and see if that happens later in the window. But for now, those 2 are out released. And there's plenty more who have been sold as well. So let's go back to the end of last season. As soon as the transfer window opened, Kostas Tsimikas was sold to Sheffield United for £8 million, potentially rising to 10. Not bad for a 31-year-old, and he was our backup left-back, so I've got no complaints about that one. Maurizio Nani went out on loan to Middlesbrough. He was signed from the same club just before. It was a transfer deal with a loan back to the end of the season that the director of football had arranged. Now, he's one for the future, £5 million up front, £32.5 million potentially, but we'll get to that deal in a bit more detail later on. Alfie Brooks, the third choice keeper, was sold on to Liverpool for 325 grand. Bear in mind that Sommer had already retired. That left a little bit of a gap there. And then on to this season, a fair few more and a lot more income. George Dobson went to Hibernian, backup centre midfielder for £2.7 million. Jimmy Lowe, youngster, went for 600 grand. He's gone to Newcastle. Quentin Giroud to Fenerbahce for £5 million. Didn't really get a look in towards the end of last year, despite the tactic changing for him. So there was no chance he was going to stay long term. Another youngster leaves on a free to Colorado. Jacob Vetta goes to Brighton for £3 million. One of the youth intake last year that looked particularly good. So a little bit surprised he was sold, but there's a fair amount of money in that one. The biggest sale of the summer, surprisingly financially, given one of the later names in this list, is Hakon Evgen. 21.5 million, potentially rising to 27. He's gone to Watford, which is a Luton fan, we don't want to be helping them. Scored a crucial goal at home to City in the last episode of last season. But that was his final action for the club. He's off and he's playing for Watford now. A bit of a shame to lose him because he was a good squad player. Albeit we've got replacements in that position. Perhaps the most frustrating one of the window though was this next one. Jasper Branch to Leeds, 4.5 million rising to 10. Now he was the star of last year's youth intake. He's got 4.5 star potential as a young striker, a position we're desperate to get a player by the way, and he was sold off for what is in relative terms peanuts by Premier League standards. So I don't really get that one. It's the one of the summer that absolutely shocks me, and then the last one is the disappointing one, but we'll get to that in a moment, because first, George Webster went out on loan, another one of the youngsters. Lewis Travis, the backup midfielder, he went to Dinamo Moscow for 6.25 million. He's 29 now, he wasn't really getting much of a look in. He's a good character, he's a good personality, but I kind of understand it, to be honest. Then Bartlomesh Lek went to Leicester for the same price. He's a 16-year-old left-back, another star from a youth intake, and they're just selling them all off. It really is quite frustrating. But none of them are as disappointing as this one. Mohamed Salisu has gone to Liverpool for £16.5 million. Now, yes, he's 28, he's not quite his best, but he's an elite centre-half. He was one of our best players last season, and he's been sold off for, again, relatively little money. I don't really understand the thinking behind this one. We've got two brilliant young wonder kid centre-halves in, but this is selling club culture. And for Salisu, he's worth a lot more than 16 million. He came in for 11 million at the start of the season, and now 16.5, it doesn't seem a huge profit for a top-class centre-half in the Premier League. But there you go. They're the players that have gone out. What is a bit more exciting, despite some of the disappointments on the outs, is that the players coming in are top-notch. Now, most of them don't speak English. Most of them are very young and inexperienced. It's going to take time to develop them. But if we can do that, they're going to be great. And the Europa League should help that this year. So first up is Alkiviadis Saravakos. He comes in from AEK for £22 million. He's a Greek centre-half at 18 years of age, so will become homegrown at the club because of when he's joined. 3.5 star ability, 5-star potential. A wonder kid, resilient personality, brilliant attributes. Maybe not the best ball player. He's got a good passing attribute, but not the best vision. But you've got to be excited about that. I was looking at it and thinking, oh, brilliant, he's going to come in and play alongside Salisu. Wasn't to be in the end. But as it is, Saravakos is in, and I'm very excited about him. Next up, the one brought in from Middlesbrough who's been sent on the loan back for the season is Maurizio Nani. £5 million up front, potentially rising to an astronomical fee. England Youth International, good footballer, not quite there yet. I don't really get why he's not staying with us for the season because we haven't got a good backup left back. But he is going to be a good player. So given that Bernardo's 32, perhaps it's a long-term solution and we're more than happy with him coming in. The third one is also exceptional, just like the Greek centre-half. Cohen Major from FC Twente, 27.5 up front, rising to 39 million. He's a 19-year-old Dutch under-21 international, 3.5 star ability, 5-star potential, natural in centre midfield, natural in attacking midfield, exceptional player. Really good attributes across the board. He's going to be a superstar. It's already worth 50 million quid. It's just about how quickly a lot of these get sold on, because if they don't, we're going to have a top-class side. We've just got to give them that half a year or a season to settle in. So they were the three early ones. They were getting my juices flowing. They got me excited. And then, it arguably got even better. The problem is, they then sold some. But apart from that, it's been brilliant. So on to the new season officially. Volta Luiz came in from Brazil. A good young goalkeeper, 21 years of age, 3-star ability, 5-star potential. Great backup to Odysseus, cheap wage, good player. Unfortunately injured at the moment, but he'll definitely start in Europa League group games. A really good talent. And to be fair to him, for 12.25 million, it might end up being a steal. There was also an offering for a young Andorran keeper who was out of contract at the end of June and was really good. I think it was 2.5 ability, 4-star potential, but he didn't end up accepting our offer. So the director of football missed out on that one. Next up, a young international from Pacos Ferreira for £17.5 million. Luis Junior, although born in Portugal, is a Mozambique international. He's a brilliant wonder kid centre-half again. I'd say not quite as good as the Greek lad before, but still very good. So at the start of the season, he's going to be my backup to Nicholas Stark, and then as they settle in over the season, we'll probably rotate them across. But a really good footballer, another brilliant youngster. And I know Bednarek's still here, but if we'd had those two, Stark and Salisu, I would have said we have 4 top-class defenders. As it is, we've got 3 and then 1 good one. But certainly no complaints about that signing. It's going to work out good value and a profit for sure. Till Hesse is just a young player. We're not going to look too much at him. He probably won't ever make it. Baratina, though, is the last big one. He comes in from Brazil as well. Flamengo was his club. 17 million up front, 24 million potentially. A right winger with 3.5 star ability, 4.5 potential. Excellent player, worth loads of money already, on a low wage. It all seems quite sensible. Mentally, he's unbelievable. And I'd imagine he was a wonder kid before he ticked to 21. We've just got to watch the expectations because they're not all speaking English and they're not all experienced. 2 more youngsters did follow. Matt Jennings comes in from Crusaders. A striker who can't finish at 20. Don't really understand that one. And Kyron Westlake, another young defender, but not very good and probably won't make it. But all in all, the signings that have come in are unbelievably good. You have to praise the director of football. I mean, we didn't actually mention the man we'd pre-agreed before, Figueiredo, who joined on the 9th of June. He's a world-class wonder kid in the number 10 role. So if you combine that together, we've got half a team or a whole spine of wonder kids joining. The only problem is that the experienced players they could have played alongside, like Salisu, like Evshen, have been sold on, and if it wasn't for that, it'd probably be the perfect summer. If we have a look at the transfer centre, there's a couple of backup players potentially leaving. Didn't really want to lose Ian Gilligan, who's a young superstar from the academy, but it looks like he's going on loan to Stuttgart. Nat Dunn has had an offer from Seattle, which it looks like is going through. And don't forget that young Stephen Hilton is still there at 16. He'll be joining when he turns 18. But of course the big problem with all of that, if we go and get into today's fixture against Wolves, is not that we haven't done well, because we have. This time last year we were expected to finish 16th in the media preview. Now it's 9th. Now we're expected to compete for the Europa League spots we made last year. What is a big problem for me though, as we go and get into this first game, is the fact that we haven't got a new striker. So Darami and the returning Lucero, who was out on loan the second half of last year, are our only two real first choice options. We've also got Dragas, who joined in January, but he looks a bit of a disappointment to me. I don't really know which one to put on the bench, probably Dragas fitness wise. But that's the only thing that's a slight concern. Aside from that, we've got a good team. We have got a slight issue at left back, but we know that's solved next season. And Bernardo's always been dependable for us. We've got Adam Brown, the youngster, coming through, who will develop as the season goes on as well. And really, we've got to say, it's a very good squad. Now, we're not going to get to see the best players in the best 11 for the first month or two. We want to rotate them in slowly but surely, so we don't have too many players trying to settle in at once. So for today, I've only actually bought in the centre-half Saravakos. That's because Salisu was sold last week, or none of them would have started. Because Odysseus is in goal, they've got a common language, which really will help. But all of the other ones, so Luis Junior, Major, Figueiredo, Baratinia, all on the bench today. They're not going to come into the squad just yet. They'll gradually drip feed in, they'll get half an hour here, 20 minutes there. And from the Europa League, they'll really start to hit the ground running. Possibly the League Cup as well, dependent on the draws. The other things on the bench to mention, of course, is the likes of Campes, who's starting, is still listed as a wonder kid. Fersler, who's on the bench, is still a wonder kid now. We've got so much talent and so much young quality. The problem is just too many experienced ones sold at once. So hopefully we'll keep hold of the rest of them. There's none other in the first 18 wanted bar Stark. So I think that will be the end of the big sales, but I'm sure I've been proven wrong before. What it does mean for today though is a fairly familiar 11. Odysseus starts in goal with Bernardo and Walker Peters the fullbacks. Nicholas Stark alongside Saravakos, the only new signing starting today. Ward-Prowse and Haidara continue in the middle. Perez and Campes on the wings. And then Volkov in that number 10 behind Darami, who's been given the nod to go up front. Into the first game of the season, it's Wolverhampton Wanderers v Southampton. 6th v 5th in last year's Premier League. 2 Europa League sides. 2 big investors this summer. Let's see who comes out on top. Let me know what you think of the transfers in the comments, and we'll see if any of them have a starring role today. Now don't forget here, Wolves have the arch nemesis of our series so far in Viktor Siganov. Almost sent us down the first time we were here. Got a goal against us last year, and I'm sure he'll be a threat today. They've still got a very experienced Jordan Henderson, Harvey Barnes still there, Nelson Semedo, an original at right back, and the likes of Rob Holding and Memphis Depay along the bench. So a good squad, a good side for Wolves. You can certainly see why they were up near the top. But we've got to prove why we were as well. Perhaps missing that 25 goal a season striker. Perhaps shouldn't have sold Ant Folwell. But it has funded what you have to say is an exceptional summer of transfer work. The director of football's done his job. Now our boys on the pitch have got to do theirs. But it's a Siganov free kick early. Takes it to Nelson Semedo. Shot from 30 yards just wide. And a threat early on. Not what we wanted to see with the first moments of the match. But we survive it, and that's all that matters. And in the 3 o'clock kickoffs on the opening day, Ant Folwell opens the scoring for Manchester City. As it is, we've got it back with Stark at centre-half, and we're trying to create our own chance. Haidara comes over halfway with the ball. Running from right to left, he's got the fullback up in support. Instead, goes alone, then goes back to Ward-Prowse. He goes wide to Bernardo, who's forced back to Saravakos. Not had too much to do so far. Trying to bring it out from the back there, and got caught in possession. You can't have that much time on the ball. And now he's out of shape as well. Awful defending Saravakos. And it almost cost us the opening goal. You can't get away with that in the Premier League. And he's going to have to learn that very, very quickly. A quarter of the game gone. Wolves have just shaded it. But it's still 0-0. Not a bad result in the grand scheme of things. Half time then. Not the best game. We're trying to get back to that defensive solidity. It was obviously lost for the last couple of games last year. I've just made a couple of slight tactical tweaks. But so far, they haven't had much of an impact because although it's 0-0, we have conceded a couple of good chances. We've got some very tired players, even before the hour mark today. Really is a little bit odd. So let's go and make a couple of changes here. Volkov is absolutely shattered and he's on a yellow. So Figueiredo will get a debut off the bench. Off the right hand side, Fran Perez isn't in much better shape. So he's going to be replaced by Baratinha. And then in centre midfield, we're going to think about it in 10 minutes. So let's just leave it for a few. We'll be back in a moment for the final sub. What I want to do is take Ward-Prowse off and bring Major on, because that's eventually going to be our first choice formation. What I am worried about, though, is what's going to happen in the interim, because Haidara looks shattered. Campes looks shattered. But I'm going to stick with it. We're going to bring Major on for his debut. Let's get the best 11 players, or as close to as possible, on the pitch and see what happens. And the answer so far has been not a lot. But we are back with 90 seconds to go for an Odysseus goal kick. Can we make it happen? Campes flicks on, but it's all the way through to the Wolves centre half. And it looks like they've got time to play out here. Harvey Barnes into Balderson in the middle. Just comes over halfway. A bit of pressure on him, but not enough to stop him keeping possession. It's a great through ball for Harvey Barnes. The offside flag has gone up. We're going to VAR. It looked tight. I'm not sure, but we need a favour here. We do not want to lose the first game in the 89th minute. David Coote goes to VAR. It is called back for offside. And it looks like we might survive with that goalless draw. 4 minutes of stoppage time to go. And we've got a free kick with a new boy, Figueiredo. Into the back post. Headed away to Otavio. And now Wolves are throwing men at the counter. They're flying forward. Otavio goes left to Dominguez. We're closing down, but not quick enough. Walker-Peters closes down. It's back to Lucas on the edge, to Balderson. Don't let them have the shot here. Lucas loses out to Walker-Peters, but it's gone into Dominguez. And a shot straight at Odysseus. It was easy to hold in the end, but two massive let-offs towards the end of this game. Some real concerns with fitness, given it's the first day of the season. But regardless, it's a goalless draw, and against the side that finished 6th last year, it's not a bad result. You can see there's a bit of work to do for the youngsters to bed in. You can see we're not going to be there for some time. But some promising signs at centre-half for Saravakos. Figueiredo looked good when he came on, and Major wasn't too bad either. But we need a striker. We need a big goal scorer to replace Ant Folwell. And we desperately need to sort out the fitness problems. Well, perhaps not the thrilling start to the season we would have liked to have displayed on camera. But it's a decent result against a very good side. And to be fair, if you take out the last 2 episodes of last season, it's very reflective of how we've played the whole time at Southampton. We've tried to be defensively solid. We're just gradually bedding those new signings in as well. So I actually think moving forward, this isn't going to be a bad team. It's just about how quickly they can develop and how quickly they can settle, learn the language and get into top form. But if we go and have a look at the schedule, you probably can't actually see the fixtures that we're next going to show. We're going to get through the rest of the month because we've got a pretty shocking start now. Wolves finished 6th last year. Arsenal finished 7th or 8th, but they won the Champions League. And Manchester City, as we know, finished 4th. So that's not a promising start whatsoever. However, we've then got Fulham, the end of the transfer window, and after the international break and Reading, we should have our first Europa League fixture. So that's the game we're going to come back for. It should be between Reading and Brighton here around the 15th or 16th of September. We should have some more transfer news. We're desperately pleading for a striker. If we have a look at the finances, there's still 35 million remaining. There's still 200 grand a week left as well. So if he wants to, he can go big. He's rejected a loan move for Lucero. I'd be shocked if he's still here, to be honest. But given his attributes, he might be the best one to try. We just haven't got any strikers that are all-round quality players in the role we need. So that's going to potentially be our Achilles heel this year. As you've seen, Darami's not the most natural goal scorer. Dragus was poor when he played last year. And to be fair, Lucero was sent out on loan for a reason, because he wasn't good enough. Kovnacki released, it leaves us in a spot of bother. But if you're looking forward to seeing how we get on in the next one, whether we've got a replacement striker and who we face in the first Europa League game, please do put a thumbs up on the video. Of course, get down in the comments. Let me know what you think of all the new signings. Great to see so many wonder kids. Great to see so many high potential players. But are you like me a little concerned that most of the experience around them's been sold? Salisu was a massive blow for me. To a rival at the top 4 as well, we've got to consider that after finishing 5th. It just seems a little odd from Matt Crocker. But aside from that, the players in, absolutely sensational. So fingers crossed you agree, we're going to be able to have a good season and get these youngsters loads of match practice in the Cup and in Europe too. So if you want to find out how they get on, how they develop and how we do, please do subscribe down below and turn that notification bell on. You'll get alerts as daily content releases from 2 long-term stories. As I mentioned in the eye above, we've got a transfer special from Bangor City. That was yesterday's episode over there. And there's also links to other playlists, including the live stream series with Dundee United and the football podcast channel too. But a massive thank you for joining me for another season. I really hope you enjoyed this start with Southampton. And hopefully it's going to be a good one. Some great players coming into the club. They've just got to settle in quick. I'll see you next time to find out if they can.